Hello YouTube! Today in the Naughty Librarian, I'm going over my November TBR list. You know what, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. It's a little hot messy right now. You might hear like crunching and chewing sounds, and that's because it is my cat's dinner time and he refused to be moved. Like, he eats dinner in here and he's not going anywhere else to eat it, so he's over there just chowing down, having the time of his life. And you might also think, hey Amanda, your wine looks kind of funny today. That's because it's Coke, because I ran out of wine. Let's talk about my books I'm reading in November. Oh, sorry, one more thing on the Hot Mess Express here. A lot of these books in my TBR are rollovers from October. You will see in my next video, which is my part 2 wrap up for October, that I went completely off the rails of my TBR for October. It just went out the window. Didn't read any of the books. So they have been rolled over, so there are gonna be some familiar faces in the crowd. My first rollover pick is At Gravesend by Jeaniene Frost. I mean, it's sexy vampires. I don't really have to say much else about the plot. It's urban fantasy and sexy vampires. And like, grade A vampire smut. Like, if you're looking for a good vampire smut, I really recommend this series. Like, I have been thoroughly impressed, and like, I read a lot of smut. So like, I feel like I have a distinguished palate when it comes to smut. And this series is pretty good. This is following Cat and Bones. Cat is a half vampire and Bones is a full vampire. He's kind of like Spike from Buffy. Better hair, more morals. That is the spiel I always say about Bones, but it's surprisingly accurate. And it's their romance, and also they hunt bad guys, and they work for the FBI. So it's definitely crime-fighting, smutty vampire stories. It's got like everything I want. I just didn't get to it in October because reasons. Also on my TBR list, I put in The Highlander Takes a Bride by Lynsay Sands. I recently hauled this in my Tipsy book haul, and so many people told me how good this book was. Like, Mara from Books Like Whoa, she's a good friend of mine. She's like, you have to read it. It's great. It's stupid characters having sexy times and solving a murder mystery in a loch in Scotland. And I was like, you had me at stupid people having smutty times. The murder mystery is irrelevant, but it adds a little extra like zing to it. So I was so in already. I just want like a good Scottish story, and this one seems like it's going to be sufficiently smutty. It's going to be very Scottish. Like, they're in a loch. You know, like the Loch Ness Monster, Scotland. It's so Scottish. And I just want some like kilty, smutty, good times. And this book is going to give it all to me. I feel like November's good for like plaids. I don't know why. I feel like it's the time for plaid, and kilts are plaid. So like, I'm Hot Mess Express, guys. I'm grasping at straws. I just want to read this for Scottish smut. Okay, there you go. Another rollover book is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I simply ran out of time in October and I didn't get to this. Other books were calling my name more than this one, because I'll be honest, I definitely really want to read this because the way that this is book 3 of the ACOTAR series, book 2 ended in a way that I'm like, ooh, I really want to see what's going to happen. However, I'm not like the most excited. It's not my favorite series by Sarah J. Maas. It's kind of a bit uninspired for me, so I'm not like chomping at the bit to get to this. It's not, you know, I can wait, essentially. Like, I'm not rushing to get to this, but I will get to this because it was my goal to read all of the Sarah J. Maas books in 2019, and I got 2 left, this one and the little novella. So I gotta read this in November, and the novella I can read in December, and I will have achieved my goal. So it's gotta happen this month. It's gonna happen. It's happening. Another book I rolled over is Before They Are Hanged by Jo Abercrombie, mainly because I wanted to have the audiobook component for it, because one, this book is thick. Like, it is thick ass book. Like, how thick are you? 570 pages. Okay, so it's deceptively thick. It's not as long as I thought it was, but it's still like pretty long. And also, I do think like the narrator does a really good job, and I like all the voices he does, so I do think it's a richer experience with the audiobook. So I wanted to do that. but I did not get the audiobook in October, so this one kind of wasn't my fault. But it's getting moved to November because I should be getting that audiobook from the library in November, so this is gonna happen then. But yeah, I really wanted to hold out for the audio component because it's pretty good. I like the narrator a lot, so I do recommend. I am also going to pick up The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. So this is kind of book 3 of this episodic series she's been writing. And I say episodic because the characters all kind of know each other, but they're not like direct sequels, you know what I mean? They're following different characters. So I feel like if perhaps you didn't read the other books in the series, you could read this and be fine with it being a standalone. But I definitely do want to read this one. This is kind of a more so direct sequel to The Wedding Date, which I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty cute. Do I also think it's overhyped? A bit. Like, I've read better romances, honestly. It's a bit overhyped, but still pretty solid. I enjoyed it. So I do want to give Jasmine Guillory like another go around because book 2 of this series, The Proposal, was widely panned. No one liked it, and I was like, I don't want to fuck with that. Nope, no, thank you, ma'am. However, book 3, I've heard that she's pulled it back around, and everyone's been really enjoying this, and thinking it's really funny, and it's just great, lighthearted fun. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I have some pretty heavy books on this like TBR list, so I want like those light books to kind of like, I don't know, palate cleanser books essentially to get me out of my reading slump when I read so many like really heavy books in a row. I need something that's just gonna like chill me out. Also on deck for November is The Revolution of Birdie Randolph by Brandy Colbert. I really like Brandy Colbert's writing style. She is YA contemporary, and I do feel like they are YA contemporaries, which isn't necessarily something I go out of my way for. I'm a grown-ass adult. I'm not the target audience for them. Oftentimes I have a really hard time connecting to the characters, but I should because I am not a teen. So, you know, I'm in a different place in my life. However, there are a couple YA contemporary authors that I genuinely really like their books. They have kind of a timeless quality to them. And one of those authors is Brandy Colbert. I really like how she writes her characters because she just lets them be messy and make bad decisions, but the bad decisions that they make sense in the context of the story. It's not just characters being willfully stupid to move the plot along and add conflict, because that's in a lot of books and it makes me upset. It's just like no one with a rational brain would make that like decision. These ones, yeah, they're bad decisions, but like it makes sense why the character did it. You know what I mean? It's a subtle distinction here. But yeah, so Brandy Colbert writes these characters who have like definite thought processes that make sense why they make a bad decision or why they make a good decision. Like it always makes sense for the character. And that's, yeah, like I was saying, it's a subtle difference in writing structure and I really appreciate that. So I do want to read this one. This one is about Birdie, and she is kind of coming of age, and I think she is finding out like a dark family secret, and she has to, you know, come to terms with it. Another rollover book from October is The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. This is such a perfect Halloween pick, and I was so bummed I didn't get to it. I just ran out of time. I was like, oh, maybe I can squeeze it in, and it just didn't happen. But I still feel like November has like lingering spookiness, so I can like talk myself into it being okay for November. I don't know. I just want to read it. It's been on my TBR list for like so long, and I just want to read it. It's been on my shelf for too long, and it's so pretty. Like it's like holographic and lovely and pretty, and like you guys haven't even seen the naked cover because I got the first edition of it. Oh, what? It's printed? Oh my gosh, this book has like, it is stylish AF basically, cover goals. I love it. And it's kind of like a scarier Hocus Pocus kind of story. It's about these witches from a long time ago. They get murdered, and then they come around in this town every so often, and then they murder boys. And then this time this girl's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't murder people. And then they're like, oh, like, and then conflict. Essentially, the witches want to murder this guy, and the girl's like, no, maybe let's not. And then I assume she has to defeat the witches, but I want to read it. I do think it is a standalone book, which I've been in the mood for lately. So I read so many books, sometimes it's hard to remember what happened in books when I have to wait a year for the next one to come out. So I've been like really feeling standalones right now. It's just like one and done. I don't gotta remember shit. I like it. My old lady brain. Hot Mess Express. Seriously, guys, I'm so discombobulated right now. I've had a very long day at work. I'm drinking Coke out of a wine glass. Los Angeles is on fire constantly, and like I live in Los Angeles. I'm constantly close to the fires. Like I'm close enough that it's like smoky and ashy at my house, but not so close that I have to evacuate. So I just live in this like cyclone of ash all the time, and it's driving me a little crazy. So let's just move on. I decided I am finally going to read The Duchess War by Courtney Milan. I have been recommended this book so many times, like so many times. It is, I've been told it is a feminist leading historical romance, and I don't really know much else. And I know it also features like a bookish heroine, and I love bookish heroines because I mean, hello, have you met me? I have a special place in my heart for bookish ladies. And it's supposed to be very like kind of feminist and a smart lady, and I'm hoping also smutty, perhaps. I don't know. It's fairly short, and I feel like it's going to be like a good little palate cleanser book because it's short and sweet and to the point. It's going to be perfect. So yes, this is getting read this month. It's been on my TBR list for so freaking long, like so long. So definitely worth it. I am going to just finally do it this month. Another rollover book on my TBR is Inspection by Josh Malerman. Now, in October, I did start this. I read about like a quarter of it. Like I read 108 pages of it. So I did read about a quarter of the book. And I had to stop reading it because, like, don't get me wrong, it's very good and I was enjoying it. It's a good 108 pages I read so far. But I had to put it down because it was making me so anxious, and that's kind of the point of the book. The book is supposed to feel very paranoid and anxious and claustrophobic and isolated, and it's doing that very well because it was like I couldn't relax. Like I was just getting really agitated and anxious while reading it, and it was just not fun. And so I said, okay, I'm just gonna take a break. I'll go back to it later when I have like more chill, which probably will be never, but I'm gonna hope for the best. It's kind of atmospheric, spooky horror, psychological horror, I'd say. There's this like school in the woods that has all these boys, and they have no idea the outside world really exists. They don't even know women exist. There's only boys, and they think they grow on trees. And apparently it was this big experiment being done by the scientist who wants to raise like a generation of boys without any distractions from their genius, essentially. So he's just trying, he's like, yeah, women don't exist, you grew on a tree. And like these kids believe it. And so that's fucked up. That's the premise. So it's definitely gonna be a horror book. And I have a feeling like things are gonna get real Lord of the Flies real quick. Like I'm only 108 pages in, but it's very claustrophobic and paranoid and anxious all the time. So it's definitely got like a lot of mood going on for it, and I'm excited to finish it. I'm also finally gonna pick up You by Caroline Kepnes, and I just got this recently, and I haven't seen the Netflix show. I know, weird, right? Everyone said it was really good, and I suck at watching things. I really do. It's hard for me to sit down in one place and just stare at something, but I can like sit down in one place and stare at a book. I don't know why. Just reading, I am much more capable of paying attention to than I am watching things on television. I don't know why. I'm really hard to get to watch things, but I do want to read this because it's about a serial killer and it's going to be super creepy and deranged. And I don't know why that goes with November to me. Like, I feel like this is kind of November book. Am I weird? It's like a lot of people can say, ooh, serial killers and like creepiness, it should be October, but I'm like, nah, that's a November book. I just feel like there's something like inherently a little creepy about November too. So I feel like this is a good book for November for some reason. Who knows? Are you reading? Hey, Everybody, do you also think like creepy books also work in November, or is it just me? I might be the weirdo, but chances are there's other weirdos out there like me. So let me know in a comment down below. Do you also like creepy books in November? Speaking of creepy books, I'm also going to pick up Teeth in the Mist by Kurtagich. This has been recommended to me like a bunch. So many times. I almost didn't pick it up because frankly, like this, it's very shiny, so hopefully it shows up on camera. It's not just like my lights blowing it out, but oh, it is a dumb cover. Like, this is terrible, right? It's a bad cover. It's so bad. However, the contents of the pages look pretty good, so I feel like this cover's not doing any favors for the book. And it's about dark pacts and demons and witchcraft and these girls who get sucked into like this curse. And I was like, yes, all of it. All of those buzzwords are like buzzwords for me. So I definitely want to read this. I hope it's really good. Like, this could go one of two ways. It could go either the YA path where it's like, ooh, this is underwhelming with its spookiness, or it's gonna go the new adult path where it's like, ooh, this is a good spooky book. So I don't know which way it's gonna go yet. I'm hoping for NA because usually new adult spooky books are like my jam. Like, they hit that sweet point for me. So I'm hoping for that. But it has like a lot of really cool things going on for it, so I definitely do want to pick this up. Yet another creepy book for November is Imaginary Friend by Chbosky. I just picked this up recently, and I did tell a really geeky story about that. I met Chbosky, who was like, has meant so much to me for so long as an author, because he is also the author of Perks of Being a Wallflower, and he wrote that book 20 years ago, and this is the second book he ever wrote 20 years later. So I am so pumped to see what this book is like, because it could not be more different than the Perks of Being a Wallflower. This one is very much adult horror, a la like a Stephen King vibe, and it deals with like a creepy things happening in the woods to a kid, and then like other creepy things going on. And it also takes place in this like industrial small town that's kind of broken, and I feel like that's gonna give like this eerie, atmospheric kind of desperation feel, and I'm like into it. It's gotta have this eerie quality to it, even just from the cover. Like, the cover looks super eerie. And also, like, it's kind of woodsy. It does happen in the woods. Creepy things happen in the woods. And I feel like woodsy books go for like November, you know, like leaves and shit go for November. I'm really stretching it, but I feel like woodsy books and spooky books also work in November. I'm sticking to that. It's my thing now. The last book I'm going to be reading this month is for the Wicked Spirits Book Club, and the polls are not over quite yet when I'm filming this. However, Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews is pretty handily winning, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be the winner. If somehow that miraculously changes, I will put in another winner here on the screen, but chances are it's going to be this one. So Magic Bites is the start of the Kate Daniels series. It is probably the biggest series by Ilona Andrews. It has like 10 books in it, plus a couple spin-offs. So it's a very big series. And this one's actually pretty short too. Yeah, it's only 260 pages. It is short. You could probably read it in a day. It is real short. However, I will also say that while I love the Kate Daniels series, I've read the whole thing. I love it. Book one is not the best book of the series. It's not strong. I'll say that. It's not a very strong opening to the series. I think I've read an interview too with the authors who said, yeah, you could start at book two if you wanted. Even they don't think book one is very strong. So starting book two, it is super strong. Like, it gets real good real quick. So I feel like this is definitely laying more groundwork for all of the awesome to come. This one, I'm not trying to say this is bad. It's definitely still good in its own way, but I've seen them do better, essentially. So I am still excited that everyone's going to start the Kate Daniels series if they haven't already, and it's going to be super fun to read it with. Like I was saying, it's going to be really fun to read this with the Wicked Spirits Book Club. Hot Mess Express, guys, coming into the station. Yeah, I'm a mess right now. But You know what? I feel like we're all friends. I've been talking to you guys for a long time. I feel like I could just be messy and like it'll be fine. I did do a whole video where I was drunk and everyone still liked me, so I feel like I have some leverage here. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you reading any of these books too in November? If so, let me know which ones. Or, yeah, those November questions I asked. Do you think November is also good for spooky books or woodsy books? Like, I think November is like perfect for those too. Let me know in a comment down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye!